could not care less about Texas, me and you. They created this give me country that don't value hard work. For a Texan to survive, all we need are some seeds and dirt. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long gone. We believe in family and we value our community. Gladly lend a helping hand to a neighbor in need. And we don't believe that government should provide for all of society's needs. No, it's the pride of a Texan to give to others voluntarily. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's not. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Gotta save your country, for it's long. Tax dollars, and they love our natural resources. They don't want to see us driving trucks, they'd rather see us riding horses. And now they want to ban our guns, you know, especially the ones that look scary. But may I remind you of the Gonzales Cannon and the Alamo heroes we buried. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save our country, for it's long gone. This last verse is straight from the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 1 and 2. Look it up. Texas is an independent state, yet presently we suffer. We no longer possess the right to locally self-govern. And now it's time as a people in which all political power is inherent. And in such manner we find expedient, we reform or abolish our government. I said, Texan rise, don't you hear your call? Got to save your country, for it's long. Save your country, for it's long gone.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So glad you could join us here on the Texas Nationalist Movement's Facebook page for this very special Facebook Live. Many of you may know me, but for those of you who do not, let me introduce myself. My name is Daniel Miller, and I am president and one of the co-founders of the Texas Nationalist Movement. Our organization has been around since 2005, working hard every single solitary day for the political, cultural, and economic independence of Texas. And I thought that this would be a good opportunity for you guys, that I would invite you into my home. We can share a cup of coffee, and we can talk about Texas. I want to first and foremost say that I probably will not be able to monitor the Facebook comments as much as I would like to, because there are an awful lot of you on here tonight. But I will do my dead level best. We've got volunteers on standby, and they are going to be feeding me questions as best they can. And I know that I'm not going to be able to get to all of them tonight, but it is a Q&A. It is an Ask Me Anything open to the public. And this is actually something that we do on a regular basis for members of the TNM. As a matter of fact, there's an exclusive Q&A for them that's coming up Thursday night. So if you join tonight, be sure to go to events and get signed up for that. But look, we're here to talk about Texas, right? We're here to talk about Texas independence. And before I dive off into that, what I would like to do is welcome the members, the supporters, and even those of you that are here solely as inquirers, people that have questions and want to try to get answers to those questions. There are, as you can imagine, there has been a tsunami of that sort of thing. Questions that have come in about the TNM, about Texas, about individual leaders in the organization. And so my first thing is going to be, if you have questions and you have not been able to visit our website at tnm.me, you're going to find that there is a wealth of information. Our organization has been around since 2005, and so you can imagine the work that we have put into this, making this information available to anyone who wants it. Texans, non-Texans, supporters, opposition. We know that the opposition won't read it anyway, so it really doesn't matter to us, right? But I do want to welcome all of you. And yes, as I'm seeing right now, I'm not going to be able to keep up with the Facebook comments. So, we'll see what happens, right? But look, I did want to share with you how pleased I am that you took the time to participate in this tonight, whether you're here live or whether you are watching this on the playback. There is an unprecedented opportunity. I mean, we are at this very moment standing at a crossroads in our history. And what we do right now matters more in Texas than any decisions that have been made here in generations. I find myself maybe feeling a bit nostalgic right now, thinking about the decisions that were being made in 1835 and 1836. When the Mexican government was out of control and overthrown by Santa Anna, and Texans' rights were trampled, and they wanted to come for the cannon in Gonzales, and armies were literally marching into Texas, and I can imagine the uncertainty, the fear, the trepidation that was being felt by those people that we later refer to as founding fathers of Texas. So, I think maybe to a certain extent, once we're all, and many of you are in a stage right now where you're very, very upset, and rightfully so. But I think in the coming days and weeks, there will be some reflection on the part of so many people that are in the TNM, that are supporters, and even you inquirers, about what is going to be required of us moving forward. You see, we have seen, oddly enough, not on election night, but even before that, we've seen millions of Texans waking up to this idea that Texas would be better off as an independent nation. And look, I understand that for many of you, the election was the straw that broke the camel's back. But what the opposition to Texas will talk about is they will say that that's the only thing, that Texas is merely a reaction to not getting what we wanted in some federal election. And I have to say this, is that for some of you, it may be the straw that broke the camel's back, but what the opposition does not and cannot understand is that it is not the only straw, right? We have, for years and years and years as Texans, been on the flip side, the downside, the bad side of the federal government. We have a governor who previously, as Attorney General, sued the federal government more times than he can count by this person, this president that the media wants to have and the progressives want to have by his predecessor, right? His predecessor trampled all over Texas. It seemed that he had a very particular affinity for wanting to make Texans angry, and he did a good job. But our governor sued time and time and time again back when he was AG. And, it didn't just start there. If you'll notice a moment ago, I mentioned that the TNM started in 2005, and I want to remind you who was actually president, who was sitting in the Oval Office in 2005. It was George W. Bush. So this is not some Republican reaction to, the election shenanigans. Sure, for many people, I'm absolutely certain that is motivating them to get involved in Texas independence. But let's be fair. Let's be honest. And let's let the opposition know one thing, is that for a lot of those people that are waking up now, 4 years ago, they were already ready to go. I think the survey, the polling numbers were like 60% of Texans were ready for Texas independence if Hillary Clinton won the presidency. Well, goodness gracious, given the things that have come out of the person who is the heir apparent, according to the media, I can imagine those numbers are significantly higher. And that's, for someone who's been at this a very long time, that is a very good thing to see. Now, I will say this, that, before I talk about some of these motivations related to Texas and start kind of looking at some of these questions, I'm going to tell you the thing that, on just a personal aside here, the thing that has made me immensely happy is this public show of support for Texas and for TNM. Thank you to every one of you that have come to our website, that have registered your support, that have joined, that have made donations, that, purchased hats and T-shirts and things of that nature. We appreciate the outpouring of support and the recognition that we've laid the groundwork to get this thing done. But more than that, what I think it has effectively done is it has shown that, like we already didn't need confirmation of this, but it has shown that the politicians and the pundits and the mainstream media have been lying to us all along about the level of support for Texas independence. Now, this is something obviously that the TNM has shouted from the rooftops. 2014, there was a Reuters poll during the Scottish independence referendum. Anytime something happens independence related in the world, we get a phone call, right? But there was a poll that was conducted, and the way that they sliced and diced the poll numbers was quite interesting. But when you dove into the data, what you found is that in Texas, 54% of Republicans, half of independent voters, and even 35% of Democrats believe that Texas should become an independent nation. Now think about that. That's 2014. That's 2 years into Barack Obama's second term. And over a third of Democrats said they would stand with us to make Texas a free, independent, and self-governing nation state again. And I think that tells you at the heart of this two things. Number one is that you are not alone, right? That was 2014. Subsequent poll numbers have even shown more. And I think this current outpouring of public support is showing you that if you believe in Texas independence, you are not alone. And what that has effectively done is it has stolen the greatest weapon that the opposition has used to beat us over the head for 15 years. Is they have continually marginalized the support that exists within the TNM and within the entire Texas independence community as a whole. Now, we've shown publicly time and time again, we've, whether it's the Scottish independence poll that I mentioned, or when, 4 years ago, we made a run at the Republican state convention and got over half of the delegates to stand in favor of an independence resolution in their platform, which, by the way, at the convention this year, it passed with 93% approval. Okay, so You are not alone. And now the media, these naysayers, these Texicants, as I like to call them, have been shown to be the frauds that they are. They have been lying to each and every one of you. Your belief that Texas can and should be a self-governing independent nation is not some extreme view. It is a mainstream view. Otherwise, the media wouldn't be attacking or squelching. The big tech firms wouldn't be shadow banning us, wouldn't be, restricting us from digital advertising or hiding our posts from our people or disconnecting our leadership from our own Facebook page. You see, it is that thing that they fear the most, that Texans will realize that when it comes to the issue of independence, that they are not alone, that it is not an extreme position, it is a mainstream position. In 2005, when we started, Texas independence was polling in single digits. But we knew anecdotally that it was something that people talked about all the time, sometimes half jokingly, sometimes seriously. But it was a conversation that was relegated to hushed conversations in the backs of cafes over old cups of coffee or at family barbecues, right? Or down there flying your Texas flag at the beach or slapping secede stickers on your trucks, right? We knew it was out there. But what we knew was that there was not an organization, a movement that could be effective at politically getting it done. And so that's where we came from. We looked around the world and we realized that at the end of World War II, there were 54 recognized countries around the world. And at the end of the 20th century, there were 192. And we said to ourselves, and we said to those Texans in those days when we first started, if they can do it, why can't we? You see, it is that message that has carried us to these great heights. I mean, this amazing amount of support that is existing right now. You know it, I know it, and the politicians know it. And therein lies the problem. You see, our path to Texas takes us straight through the Texas legislature. You know, if I don't know how many of you have actually read my book, there's a copy of it back there. But if you have, you'll see that in that book, the path is laid out. And let me tell you, all the high points of the information are located on our website at tnm.me/Texit. But there is a path laid out. And it's a path, a well-worn path that we have seen in this explosion of nation states around the world. And it's not some copied analog where we, just said, okay, well, let's see what Scotland did and let's see what the UK did for Brexit. But all of those movements have informed this path forward. But what informs us more about our path forward than what those other guys did is what Texans did in 1835 and 1836 and what our Texas Constitution says at this very moment. You see, if you crack open a copy of that very large document, the Texas Constitution, the very first words that are in there say this: Texas is a free and independent state. It says it, the very first words of our Constitution. And it goes on in Article 1, Section 1 to say that the perpetuity of the Union depends on the right of local self-government unimpaired to all the states. And it's an interesting way, an interesting phrase, right? We hear a lot of the naysayers, people who really don't know what they're talking about, say, well, any chance that Texas could leave the Union was ended at the Civil War, right? It never fails when the media tries to cover this topic. They drag out some, sloppy adjunct third-rate professor from Bug Tussle Community College to get up there and say something stupid like the Civil War settled this. But what they fail to realize is the Texas Constitution that we live under right now was initially drafted in 1876, well over a decade after the end of the Civil War. And it includes that phrase: the perpetuity of the Union depends on the right of local self-government unimpaired to all the states. It essentially means that as long as we are allowed to remain free and independent and sovereign, and that our decisions are the ones that stick, then we'll stay in the union. And unfortunately, what we have seen for decades is that right of local self-government impaired. You know, if you ever wanted to question that, all you would have to do is go look at why our Attorney General had to sue the federal government almost 60 times. Or you look at the fact that 40% of the bills filed in the last legislative session were the result of some new federal law, some federal regulation, or some federal court decision. You see, we don't possess the right of local self-government when any decision we make here in Texas can be overridden by the pen of some unelected bureaucrat in Washington, D.C., of which there are 2.5 million. You see, one of the things that people have a tendency not to understand about this relationship, especially the opposition, is that Texans are really sick and tired of living under 180,000 pages of federal laws, rules, and regulations administered by 440 separate and competing agencies and 2.5 million unelected bureaucrats, people that we didn't elect, shoving policies on us that we don't want. But you see, that's the relationship that we have with the federal government. And that's why we wind up in a situation where every single solitary year, your tax money is coming out of your pocket, and we are overpaying into the federal system somewhere in the neighborhood of $103 to $160 billion every single solitary year. That's money that goes into the coffers of Washington, D.C. that we never see, money that you worked hard for. And where does that money go? It goes to support and prop up failed states like Illinois and California and New York. That's where your money's going. And then when it's time to have elections here in Texas, that money flows back from those states to determine who it is that gets to represent us. Because as we know in Texas elections, money is king. So that is the situation, folks. People have been waking up to this. It is something that we have known for 15 years. It is something that we have every single solitary day, 365 days a year for 15 years, been out fighting to do, which is to give you that right that's ensconced in the next section of the Texas Bill of Rights. You see, Article 1, Section 2 says this: when someone out there says that we can't, just remember these words. All political power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are instituted by their authority and for their benefit. And the people have, at all times, the inalienable right to alter, reform, or abolish their form of government in such manner as they may think expedient. You see, folks, there's no need for us to split into 5 states. That's a whole other conversation. All we have to do as Texans is stand up and claim those rights guaranteed to us in Article 1, Section 1 and Article 1, Section 2, also known as the Texas Bill of Rights. So it is our right to do this. Don't let any pollster, pundit, politician, policy wonk tell you any different, because it is in our governing document. And any politician who doesn't know it, or any politician who speaks contrary to that, has violated their oath of office. Because I'll tell you, several sessions back, we went and had a conversation with the lieutenant governor at the time, David Dewhurst, about this. And when I quoted Article 1, Section 1 and Article 1, Section 2 to him, he got up, went and grabbed his copy of the Texas Constitution to fact check me. Now, I will tell you, the thing that really makes it the most interesting is that the lieutenant governor had just left the floor of the Senate administering the oath of office to all of the newly elected state senators. who had to put their hand on a Bible, raise their right hand, and swear to uphold that very document. And he didn't know. Even more so, when he called 5 other senators into his office and read it to them, they were puzzled too. So you see, that is the problem that we have. It is less about red and blue and more about Texas versus the establishment. You see, the permanent political class has gone out and they have initiated a stranglehold where we have politicians whose primary goal here in Texas is to advance to a federal level office, whether it's to be a congressman or to be a senator or to work with some federal agency or be a department head, or more often than not, make that transition from governor to U.S. president. And what we have seen is not a decrease in the amount of regulation, in the amount of pages of laws that we have to live under, or a hand back of the sovereignty to the people of Texas. What we have seen is more regulation, more laws, more debt, more encroachment on our rights and our freedoms, including the right to keep and bear arms, which is under attack. And they have made it abundantly clear that it is directly in the crosshairs. But not more than that. I mean, think about one of the backbones of the Texas economy, which, by the way, depending on the day, is the 9th or 10th largest economy in the world. But the backbone of that is our energy sector, oil and gas. You know, the things that have to come out of the ground that Texas produces that makes the petroleum products and the plastics that the neo-Marxists and the hipsters and the millennials and all of those guys that are, out there protesting and burning and looting, the thing that they use to record that and complain about how bad the oil industry is, their cell phones, right? They have directly threatened to utterly decimate oil and gas. And that is just code for we're going to utterly decimate Texas. So you see, it is definitely a crossroads in our history, folks. We have an unprecedented opportunity here where the mainstream media can no longer lie about the level of support for this. Now the politicians can no longer ignore this issue. And if they do so at their own peril. Because now, with a majority of Republicans, all Republicans in statewide elected office and a majority of Republicans in both houses of the legislature, it is now an official part of their platform. So they turn their back on you. They turn their back on us. They have effectively turned their back on the party under which the banner under which they ran. So, look, we have got, and I'll just wrap this up and I'll try to take some questions down here. I have soapboxed long enough, and, I did bring my coffee. For those of you who have not had a chance to know me, I pretty much go nowhere without it. But let me do this. Let me say this, and then I'll scroll through the feed and I'll take some of your questions if that's okay with you guys. We are in like I said, unprecedented territory, right? We have seen the surge from 2005, polling in single digits, to an absolute belief right now that Texas, if when we get this to a vote, we will win. We typically, in some of these polls, poll higher, anywhere from 6 to 8 percentage points than those people who want to stay, and there's about 12% undecided on average. So this is my message to you guys. Those of you that are undecided, that are here as inquirers, I want to ask you this question, and it's not one where I'm going to say, look, I could give you a motivational speech and say, your choices are Texit or what's coming down the pike for the federal government. And if you choose not to choose Texit, then you are openly embracing those things that are coming down the pike, right? I could make that argument and motivate you that way, but I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to ask you a question. I want you to imagine for a moment that Texas was an independent nation right this very moment, right? Our laws were only made in Texas. When you traveled around the world, you could visit a Texas embassy in any country that you went to. When our boys went into the military, they went into the Texas Army or the Texas Air Force. We had, as an independent nation, we had ultimate authority to decide our immigration policy and our border policy. We also had that $103 to $160 billion back into our economy. And everyone got about a 600% pay increase because we were no longer subjected to federal regulatory accumulation. We had a president, a Congress, our own Supreme Court, and no one was focused on the dysfunction going on in the rest of the United States, which means that since everyone was focused here, we would have better government, not only in Austin, but in our counties and our cities and our school boards. And because we were flush with money that was no longer being flushed down the toilet in Washington, D.C., we could do things like eliminate the property tax, where we never had to do that, right? So that's Texas as an independent nation. So imagine for a moment that is our reality right now. And then one day, someone stood up and said, hey, I think we should join the United States. What would their selling point be? Would it be the 20 to 30 trillion dollars of debt? Would it be that we would have to, carry a burden of those $100 trillion plus unfunded mandates? Is it that our laws would be written by people in California and Illinois and New York, and we really wouldn't have much of a say about it? Right? Is that the selling point? Is it the fact that they would print currency at such a rate that the value of our dollar would be cut in half in probably 10 to 15 years? Right? What is their selling point? But more importantly, ask yourself this question. If Texas were an independent, self-governing nation state right now, and it was put on the ballot for Texas to join the Union, how would you vote? If you wouldn't vote to join the Union, then welcome to our team. Because what we want to make that independent Texas that we just pictured together a reality. And we need your help to do it. So I'm going to encourage you, if you have general questions about Texit, go to our website at tnm.me/Texit. There is a ton of information on there. If you want to do a little bit more of a deep dive, pick up a copy of the book, Texit, Why and How Texas Will Leave the Union. And, honestly, if there's something on the website that if you're looking and you don't find an answer, drop us an email. Right? We have places all over the website where you can ask us questions, and we are 100% responsive to those questions when we get them. But more important than that, look, we want you to, once you know that you're ready to support Texit and the TNM's work for the political, cultural, and economic independence of Texas, we want you to become one of us. Register your support on our website, become a member, get involved, because ultimately that is what it's going to take, right? We need fewer spectators and more players on the field. And frankly, folks, it is the thing that I talked about at the very beginning, which is it is a decision that we will all have to wrestle with. I wrestled with it. You see, my journey on Texas independence didn't start in 2005. My journey toward independence started August 24th, 1996, where as a frustrated young man who was frustrated at seeing where the United States was headed, the concept, the principle, the idea of Texas independence was presented to me, and I dedicated myself to this cause on that very day. I refer to it often as my line in the sand moment, to parallel the 12th night at the Alamo, where the story is that Colonel Travis took all of the Alamo defenders into the courtyard and told them there's no getting out of this. We can't escape, and if we stay, we'll die. But if we stay here, we will at least die doing what we know is right, doing our duty. And with that, the story goes, he took out his sword, he drew a line in the sand, and he said, I will stay, and any that will stay with me cross this line in the sand. And to a man, they all crossed over. You see, we're all presented with moments of decision. Big ones, small ones, we make decisions every day. This is a big one. And for many of you, this is your line in the sand moment. And if you're ready to cross that line in the sand, I'm going to encourage you to go to our website, tnm.me/join, and join with us, because you are not alone. And if you're getting ready to do that, I want to welcome you home. You're going to be a part of a very large family that is about to make history. So welcome. So that being said, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through the chat really quickly and see if you guys have any questions that you need answered. There's a lot of scrolling going on here, folks. Let's get down to it. Let's start at the beginning. Okay, I just saw a question. Someone asked about the song that played. Oh, this came in a different way. Okay. Someone asked about the song that played in the intro for this, and that is a song called Texan Arise by one of our team members, Nate Smith. He's been with the organization for many, many years, and one of his outlets is he loves to write songs about Texas independence. And I can't speak to when that's going to be out, but I have to thank him for letting us exclusively use it tonight for the intro. And I just can't, Nate, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Okay, excellent, folks. Yes, I see. You know, what's interesting here is I'm not seeing a lot of questions. This is great. Although I did just see someone in the feed that I went to high school with. So, hi, Dee Dee. Good to see you. Let's go down. Greg Brown says that Cecil Bell admitted that it has been a subject of very private conversation amongst about a dozen or so legislators. Look, we work the legislature, and Greg, you're right. I mean, there has been a lot of private conversation. You cannot imagine the number of times that we've been told behind closed doors that they support what we do, right? They support getting us a vote on Texit. And, the fact of the matter is that it's sort of a chicken and egg situation, right? They want to see the support before they will file the bill because, as all politicians, they are worried about getting reelected. But let me tell you, that excuse doesn't hold water for me, and especially now, it should not hold any water for you. So my advice, and what we're telling everyone in the TNM right now, member, supporter, casually interested person, is to, on our website, if you go to tnm.me/Texit, there's a button that says Take Action. If you go there, you will see a copy of our proposed referendum legislation, right? It's the bill that we drafted, that all it needs to be is filed by a legislator. We have been in consultation over the last several days with more than one legislator about the getting this bill filed. And it is, I think a lot of them are very amazed that we are providing it to them practically ready to file. I mean, they may have to make a few little tweaks here and there to get it, get some of the language right. But it's literally a legislator could right now download our referendum legislation and go down to the Capitol right now, because the pre-filing window has opened, right? They are starting to file bills now. They could file this legislation right now. So we're encouraging everyone to go get that piece of legislation, connect with your state representative and state senator, right? Let me be clear, state representative and state senator, right? Not your U.S. congressman and not your U.S. senator, right? Cruz and Cornyn, not in the equation. Our 36 U.S. congressmen, not in the equation. It is your state rep and your state senator that you need to be talking to. And they need to hear from you. They need to hear from you as often as possible. And get them a copy of it. And let us know, right? We are coordinating with a lot of these guys, but if you're out there connecting with them, connect them, get them the bill, connect them with us, and we can answer any questions that they have. Okay. Let's go here. Sorry, folks. I am scrolling down. Yes. Let me tell you. I wholeheartedly agree. We do not have to split into 5 states. That is just doesn't need to happen. I mean, do you really want to break up Texas? I mean, think about that for a minute. Okay, so what? You get 10 senators, but you will forevermore be the generation that broke up Texas. And you put a lot of waffle makers and potato chip or tortilla chip makers out of business because let me tell you, they are very happy to print things in the shape of Texas. So you don't want to be the generation that goes down as the ones who split Texas to try to score political points in a failing political and economic union. Here is someone. It's just not going to happen unless the union allows us to secede. We cover that on the website. It's covered extensively in the book about why that is just a pile of project fear. I mean, it's funny because we actually saw those sort of same debates during the Scottish independence referendum and during the Brexit referendum. But I must say that the people that are using it now, saying that, well, the United States, the federal government will never let you leave, that tells me that they stopped studying history when they got to that section in American history about the Civil War, and they just sort of gave up, right? When I woke up this morning, it was not 1861. It was 2020. Wish it was 2021 so we could get done with, so much of this. But, I cover it extensively in the book, and it's way too much to get into here. But there are many, many reasons why this idea that the federal government won't let us leave is just a bunch of misinformation and out of some people, just flat cowardice. We're Texans. When has anyone not let us do something, right? Okay, scrolling down, and I'm going to take a few more, and then I'm going to let you guys get back to your evening. I just have to say how much I appreciate you joining me, and for those of you who are watching on the playback, yeah, we missed you. We would have loved to have you here, but you're getting the message, so good for you and go for it. When will everyone wake up and smell the roses? Kevin, I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of people are. The biggest challenge that, and I talked about this, the biggest challenge that we have is that the mainstream media, the politicians, the political class wants to make anyone who believes in Texas independence feel like, it's only a few people who believe in it and they're just stupid and they're ignorant. They don't know what they're talking about. And the only way to overcome that is for Texans to reach out to Texans, to basically be bold about it, right? If you looked at the demographics of our organization, what you would see is a better cross-section of Texas than either major political party. I mean, just the sole number of PhDs among our membership, or veterans, or ethnic diversity, right? Both political parties would absolutely kill to have the sort of slice of Texas that the TNM is, and those people are out there. If you talk to any volunteer who is, any of our volunteers that have been out doing work, that are connecting with people, whether it's, getting registered supporters or any, working at tables, at fairs, events, and festivals, they're going to tell you, you can't throw a rock without hitting someone who is on fire for Texas independence. It's just that someone has not introduced them, right? There is no nexus that brings them here. I will tell you that it typically was about every week, but here lately it's been almost every day. We hear from someone who says, "Oh my God, I am glad that I found you. I've been looking for you my entire life." So they're out there in significant numbers, especially when you look at the polling data. Somebody says, wonder if Trump would be interested in running for president of Texas. Well, he's not a Texan. He probably would not be qualified to run for president of Texas, but we'll see. We may adopt the natural born citizen thing, or we may not. That's a post-Texit question about how we govern ourselves, and we'll see how that works. I love this. We get this a lot. Someone said Texas and the states to Montana and North Dakota need to secede together. Okay, so let me throw this out there for you. We get this a lot, oddly enough. As a matter of fact, a good friend of mine posted a graphic the other day of Texas and Oklahoma attached to each other and coming off of the map together. And I had to respond and say, hey, what is that barnacle attached to our hull, right? So let me just talk about that a bit, because I think it's something that we do get. I mean, I wouldn't say we get it often, but it does come in more often than some questions. You know, the Texas needs to be an independent, self-governing nation state. At the moment that you say, okay, a bunch of states, we're going to go in together, and we're going to recreate the political and economic union that we just left, what you're essentially acknowledging is that I'm willing to still have my decisions made by people that are not Texan, right? I am absolutely willing to make Texas subservient in some or many things to the decisions of people that we didn't elect. And so you wind up back in the same issue. Now, there is a solution to that, and you see it all around the world, right? And that is the solution of they can leave, we can both be independent, self-governing nations. And what we do is what nations around the world do, which is we form mutual defense agreements and multilateral trade agreements. And, you know, there are ways that this is done that do not require these states to be in an absolute political and economic union. And that is a flexibility that we do not have right now. I mean, I fully expect if the Senate flips the U.S. Senate, that with Democrats from tip to tail, we're going to see some pretty egregious trade agreements. We're going to see some terrible treaties signed, and we're not going to have a say in any of those. Those will be, as long as we're in the union, the law of the land. But Texas is an independent nation, and these other states as independent, self-governing nation states, we have the ability to transact business that way, to form our own treaties with one another and conduct trade and travel and all of those things that 190 plus independent, self-governing nation states around the world can do without being in an absolute political and economic union. So just food for thought. Okay. Let's go through here. Yes, let the rest of the states wallow. I do not disagree with that sentiment. How would you keep leadership from being corrupt? Okay, this is one, oddly enough, I get. And I'll tell you, Jamie, it's a question that we get typically around the Texas legislative session. Okay, and I actually hinted at the answer to this just a little bit ago. But, you know, to understand why leadership, you know, political leadership in Texas is pretty corrupt, is you have to look at how the political establishment operates and understand that, number one, our government is made up of humans, and wherever there are humans, there is the potential for corruption, right? So we always have to be watchdogs of it. But Texas independence fixes this through some very specific things, right? First thing I alluded to was our legislature, 40% of the bills filed in the last session were a result of some federal bureaucrat telling us we needed to do it. And so you immediately cut that off, right? So that goes away. Texas laws that are made according to what we need to do and how we want to do it. Okay, so that's number one. And you know, you take that federal government aspect out of it. Oh, let me say this, a little self-edit. Most of those bills that were filed that reference those things, not most, but many of them, were an attempt to try to recapture some of that money that the federal government stole from us. Okay, so money, you always have to follow the money, right? And so, you know, you take that out of the equation. Now we make the laws. But the second thing is that is adjacent to that is this idea of accountability, right? I want you to think about this right now. If you were to go ask 10 random people who the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives is, they would probably be able, at least a good chunk of them, be able to tell you that it's Nancy Pelosi, right? But if you were to go ask those people in the last session of the Texas legislature who was the Speaker of the Texas House, they probably couldn't tell you. You would be lucky if you polled 100 people and got an answer to that question. So, you know, that plays out across a lot of issues, right? The federal circus consumes so much time and so much attention, right? Because we only have a limited amount of time during the day, but it consumes so much attention that Texans are typically focused and more aware on what's happening on that federal level. And so what happens is these corrupt, bad actors in state and county and local governments get to kind of slide by without any accountability because there's been no scrutiny. You know, I think people would be hard pressed to name all the people on the city council in their city or even their own representative on a local school board. Name all of your county commissioners, right? But that's because so much of our attention has been diverted to the circus that is Washington, D.C., that we don't have the bandwidth to pay attention to what's happening right here in our own backyard. So when you take the federal government out of that equation, you say, okay, look, we don't have to worry about those guys anymore. We just have to worry about what's happening here. What that does is that brings additional scrutiny to how we are governed and who governs us, because we don't have to be distracted by that sideshow any longer. What we have seen time and time again in studying independence movements over the last 75 years is that when countries become initially, they go through this process. If it's a similar process to what we're going through, one of the things that happens is a very detailed introspection into how we are governed as a people, and a real focus on local governance issues and corruption. And you want to talk about something that will absolutely break the back of the establishment? It's this issue. The final thing to bear in mind is that even when we hire these legislators, these elected officials, part of what their plan is to go run up there and try to get some sort of federal position, which I alluded to earlier. You take that off, and office here in Texas is as good as it gets for them. Well, suddenly now there's a focus on ensuring that they can do the best job that they can here, right? So no more playing to an audience of potential, federal people that would vote for them if they ran for president. We don't care what people in Florida think, or California or New York. The only people that our folks have to make happy are Texans. So that's the high points. There's actually a video where I talk about that in an interview on the website. Let's see. Scrolling down. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna see if I can take a couple more. And if we've got a couple more, yeah, boy, there's a lot. I'm scrolling like crazy, people. Bear with me. I agree, Lewis. We go as a whole state. How do we deal with Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston since they are a liberal base? Look, I will tell you this. Per capita, the highest concentration of TNM support is in places like Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. Austin, not so much, but Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. And there are a lot of reasons why that is, right? But the whole concept about how and why those are sort of liberal bastions, I mean, there's a thought process there that basically says the more urban a place is, the more liberal it gets. But I think part and parcel what has happened here is that there has been, while we have been on a per capita basis successful in engaging Texan supporters in the large cities, and while the political parties like the Republican Party of Texas has been, an absolute abject failure in addressing it, is that for all intents and purposes, they have given up on those areas, right? You go look at some of the shift that we've seen in the Rio Grande Valley in the last election, in this most recent election, and you understand that when people are actually engaged on issues that care about Texans, that Texans care about, that impact Texans in a real way, regardless of where you live or your ethnic background or your voting history. If we understand the common issues that affect us, and people actually feel like you care and want to help solve some of these problems and work with them and treat them as Texans and not as some demographic checkbox on your target list, then what you find is that you find that there are a lot of real true blue Texans in those areas. And I will tell you, while the Republican Party of Texas gave up on those cities, we never have, because our message is transpartisan and it resonates for every Texan who loves Texas. So, okay, free men. Yeah, Michael, you're right. Free men don't ask permission. We don't have to ask the federal government to leave. It just doesn't need to happen. All right, I'm going to scroll down. I've got just a couple of minutes, and then I've got some. Diane, she said she volunteered a few years back to gather signatures for TNM. Come on back. We need your help right now. We've got to connect with Texans. So head on over to the website. Let's get you back on the team. I love this. We're getting some native-born Texans that are displaced, and we've got some folks that are Texans in spirit that want to get here. My suggestion is get here before you have to apply for a visa to get here. Andrea, thank you. You're most welcome for doing this live. I've really enjoyed it. It's been great to visit with everyone. All right. Look, if I didn't get to your question, we'll have volunteers and folks monitoring the comments on this, even for the replay. And post your questions there. We'll try to tackle them there. But your best bet to get your questions answered, go to our website. If you don't find it there, be sure to submit it to us. There's a form on all the Texit pages where you can do that, and we'll try to get your question answered. And look, if it's already on the website, forgive us. We're swamped as always, but we may just direct you to the resource where you can find that information. So, all right. Well, look, folks, it's time to wrap this up. I am very glad you joined with us tonight. And share my cup of coffee with me, right? I can say this is a pretty good sized crowd. I don't know that I've had a coffee with this many people at one time. Normally I'm a solitary coffee drinker. So, but look, if you're in some areas in Texas and you want someone from the TNM to come out and speak to your organization or civic group, please, definitely reach out to us. We'll bring somebody out there. We are distributed all over Texas. I will tell you, I look at the map constantly of our supporters and am just amazed at how many of you just live next to each other and don't even realize it. It's an amazing thing to me. So I will tell you that it has been a wonderful experience to visit with you guys tonight and just be able to share a little bit about who we are. For those of you who don't know us, to help those of you who do know us get to know us a little bit better, and to really show you that there is a way forward. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I'm going to be able to answer every question you have about Texas independence of the TNM on a Facebook live stream, right? It's not the way that it works. I could sit down and fire this camera up and talk Texas independence until my grandchildren had grandchildren. But I don't want it to go that long. I don't want my grandchildren's grandchildren to have to look back on this and say that our generation missed an opportunity. I want them to be able to celebrate the blessings of liberty and celebrate the independence of Texas for generations to come. I want the hard work to be taken care of. And if it is up to us to do the hard things to make it happen, it's better us than those future generations. And now is our shot. So with that, I'm going to sign off for tonight. But I'm going to leave you with the words of Sam Houston. And, many people out there talk about how Sam Houston would be opposed to Texas independence. And That's not true. We have an entire article on the website debunking that. And I've studied that issue extensively, as you might imagine. And Sam Houston was not opposed to Texas becoming an independent nation. He was opposed to Texas becoming an independent nation and joining the Confederacy in the 1860s. But I will tell you this, and it's one of my favorite quotes from Sam Houston, and it happened after Texas was annexed into the Union. And he said this. He said that Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. There was no equivocation. There was no, maybe it will, we could consider in the future. Houston was emphatic. Texas will again lift its head and stand among the nations. And so, folks, I believe that time is now, and I am proud to have you standing with us. So good night, everyone. Thank you for your time tonight. You guys have been wonderful and attentive, and I really do appreciate it. And so let's go win this thing.